Hey Guildies, Fletch here. Today I'm going to go over one of the most contentious, I think, principles in the Agile principles, and between the project managers and Agile principled software developers. So let's go ahead and get into that. So why do I say it's contentious? The big reason why I say it's contentious is because I'm going to seem like I'm attacking Scrum, which I do all the time. But it's going to be very pointed this time. But there's going to be some back and forth a little bit. So let's first of all just go ahead and take a look at it and read it. Agile processes promote sustainable development. So agile processes, I think I would rewrite that as agile principled processes because as we all know, there's no such thing as an agile process. There's just processes that are put in place that are following these agile principles. So they're agile principled processes. And if you're doing that, then you'll be promoting. So if you're following all of these principles, you'll be promoting sustainable development. So what does sustainable development mean? That means that your developers are not getting burned out. It means that they're able to continue to do their work week to week, day to day, year to year, that they're able to continue to do their work at their highest level that they can do. Each individual person at their highest level they can do. Everyone's going to be different. And this is sustainable. It's sustainable to have a good work-life balance. It's sustainable to have healthy developers, high morale. It's sustainable to have a team that is happy to be working with you. And I talked about this also in previous principles. A team that is trusted, a team who is self-organizing, a team that can do what they need to do, and people who you trust and people who can do that. That's sustainable development. Whereas if you're pushing timelines onto developers and you're having them work late hours and they're constantly stressed about if they're getting enough done and you're asking them, are you done with that thing yet? Are you done with that thing yet? You know, something like that. That's not sustainable because they'll burn out. They'll eventually want to move somewhere else. They'll just not want to work for you anymore or for anybody probably. So agile processes promote sustainable development. You can more so read that as it promotes healthy work ethics. It promotes developers who are happy to do their job and they work harder because they're happy, not they work harder because they're told to do something. So the sponsors, developers, and users, that's something to dig into all by itself because I'm just talking about developers right now, it seems, but should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Let's look at this first. This maintain a constant pace doesn't sound very agile to me. And I think it's just a wording problem. Maintain a constant pace sounds like something you do with a horse, where you whip the horse or whatever that whip thing is called, where you hit a crop, we're riding crop, you crop a horse or you dig your heel things into it and you make sure they're going the same pace constantly. That's maintaining a pace. And that's not agile because in order to be agile, in order to run and turn directions and turn back around, you need to be able to change your pace constantly. Not having a constant pace, but being able to change your pace based on what it is. And I'm not promoting that sometimes developers should be slow and sometimes they should be fast. They should definitely have something of a constant pace, but it's not by being managed and it's not by it's even not let's put it on their shoulders and let's say you tell us how long it will take because we all know that just turns around to being like, oh, so you didn't know apparently, or you lied, or he's not very good at estimates, or you don't follow velocity. So you don't even put timelines on them. It's a very narcissistic thing. You tell me how long it will be until I tell you that you're failing. It's not how you do things in an agile environment. You have self-organizing teams, you have people who you can trust, and they will have a much more sustainable pace, a more sustainable and maybe closer to constant pace. This will be a pace that is around here for the developer. Hopefully not ever here. And if you have an environment where you trust them, then it won't be here either. It'll be, okay, I'm happy to work. You know, sometimes I'll have my ups and downs, but it'll be sustainable and this will be constant indefinitely. So So that's the idea of this. Now, if you read a lot of material that's put out by project management types, or even people like Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, you'll, if you dig far enough, and not even that far, but if you dig far enough, they'll be saying the same things. This is about not overburdening your developers. And I'm supposed to be going from a developer point of view since this is the agile development principles, but I'm talking to businesses here. It's about not overburdening your developers. It's about keeping a good work-life balance and trusting them. It's about having them be able to maintain a constant pace because you trust them, not because you say every 2 weeks we're going to do something. Now, that said, if you are a Scrum advocate, somebody who loves Scrum and Scrum and agile processes. I know it says agile processes here, but that's just because that's the words they were using in 2001. These days, people have agile processes like Scrum. If you're that kind of person, then you probably are reading this thinking every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we're going to have some sort of a KPI, some sort of a metric, something that measures what they're doing, and we need to get that right. And if we're not getting that, then something's wrong. And so we're going to have, let's call it velocity, or let's call it something that measures story points. Something about you did this many story points last week or last 2 weeks. You should be able to do that many this coming 2 weeks. Or, over the past year that you've worked with us, on average, you've done 30 story points or something like that. So why can't you do that for the next 2 weeks? Or we expect you to do that for the next 2 weeks. That's not right. Anytime you read this, if you read this and you think we have some sort of a metric we need to make, some sort of a measurement to measure a constant pace, then you don't know what Agile is. And so Agile is, I'm going to rewrite this now. Agile processes promote sustainable development. Cool. I probably should have rewritten this to say Agile-Principled processes. The sponsors, developers, and users should be empowered to manage their time and workload effectively, fostering a sustainable and consistent pace. It's like I say with a lot of other things, that you don't look at a goal. You don't say, that is the finish line. Our finish line is be done by timeline or something like that. And that's what we push. There's the finish line. There's the finish line. There's the finish line. That isn't how you get runners across the finish line. If you run a track team, you get them across the finish line effectively, not just, okay, any runner can get across the finish line given infinite time. So you can't say that if your developers are crossing a finish line or your runners crossing a finish line, that your processes must be working. In order to get them across the finish line effectively, competitively, in order for your company to have a competitive advantage, you need to have sustainable development. And what that is you trust them, you give them principles, you give them an environment, you give them the tools they need, you give them the training they need, you have good leadership who also know how to do these things. And if you have them doing that, if you have them running and you have them following the principles of running and jogging and exercising, and you have them focusing on those things, then as the race comes, they're going to be effective. They're going to cross the finish line. If you trust them and you give them the tools they need, they will cross that finish line consistently. So that's what we focus on. You focus on trust. And as most of the principles say, we focus on how the feedback is coming back, how the feedback from the customers and how they're doing in different parts of their training and stuff like that. That's what you focus on, and they will cross the finish line. So now let's talk about sponsors, developers, and users, because this isn't just about the programmers. When we're talking about the developers and the people on the development team, which includes designers and the UX professionals and DBAs and all that sort of stuff, that's the development team. But sponsors also need to have a consistent pace. And that consistent pace shouldn't be every little thing that comes to their head. I guess, first of all, who are sponsors? These are essentially the business people, which could be represented by or communicated through a product owner or a business analyst, or the lead engineers talking directly to the CEO, for example. So these are the sponsors, people in the business side bringing information to the dev team, because the Agile principles are about development. So these people are bringing information, and it should be a consistent pace, a constant pace. And it shouldn't be the constant pace, whatever they can do is their constant pace and wherever they can get to you. It should be the right pace for the development team. And when the developers ask for more information, they should be there to provide the information. And when the developers say, okay, we've got enough, we need to focus on this stuff, these high level items, or this part of the project we're working on, we don't need to know the next year or 2 years of what you think the goal for this product is. That constant pace for the developers, for the sponsors, should be something that is manageable for the development team. For the users, it's something more like, okay, the development team is going to be continuously deploying, continuously delivering stuff to the user in a way that should be maybe feature gated or behind authentication, or with an opt-in flag for certain users, something like that. It should roll out to them with some sort of form, something like there's some patch updates, they're optional, you don't have to get them right now, or these are minor updates, or these are major updates. And so it should roll out to them in a way that they can ingest. And they should be able to absorb it with the same pace that the developers are doing it. Because it's very possible that the developers are moving too fast for the users, or that the way that your continuous integration and deployment is working is just changing the stuff so quickly that you have to have special training every week for the entire user base. There should be ways for them to choose how they absorb that, which is usually through some sort of gating, or some sort of different versioning of releases or something like that. So that's how the user should be able to maintain a constant pace. You need to watch them, you need to read their feedback, which is what Agile principles are all about. And you need to be able to say, okay, we're doing too much for them there. Let's focus on quality for a little bit, or let's focus on packaging some of this stuff up, or let's focus on making training a training package for them. Something that can allow them to keep up with the developers. So, Agile principled processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be empowered to manage their time and workload effectively, fostering a sustainable and consistent pace. This is about work-life balance. I don't like the term work-life balance, which I think I talk about other places, and maybe I'll talk about more. But it's about the ability for the developers to have high morale, to be happy with where they're working, to be given the tools they need and the trust they need, and to be able to do their job. That's what this is about. And what will come of that will be a constant pace. It'll be something that is somewhere around here. So that's what it is. I hope you like this talk. I hope you comment on what I say about these things, and like and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.